stop and landing 13 left if that's available.
Papa Hotel Tango India Mike, Palm Springs Tower, squawk 6250.
6250.
Papa Hotel Tango India Mike, Palm Springs altimeter is 2985, radar contact about 10 miles west of the Palm Springs VOR. Presently landing runway 31, you're requesting straight in for 13.
That's available.
Ever departure of Papa Hotel Tango India Mike, make straight in runway 13 left and clear to land. Wind is 0905.
Clear to land runway 3 left, Papa Hotel Tango India Mike, thanks.
Palm Springs to plus 4658 is type PC tunnel slam call request clearance to Vegas S file.
Plus 4658, Palm Springs clearance. Good afternoon. Unable to give you S file, and I'll be full route standby. Plus 4658 is cleared to the Las Vegas Airport via Flight Cathedral 1 departure procedure to Palm Springs, Victor 370 to 29 Palms, Victor 538, Cresso, join the Cresso 3 arrival. Maintain 7,000, expect flight level 2405 minutes after departure. Departure frequency 126.7, squawk 6316.
Plus 4658 is cleared to Vegas via Cathedral 1, Palm Springs, Victor 37029, Palms, Victor 538, Presso 3, initially captain, as expected, reservation 5, departure 167, plus 4658.
Plus 4658, free baggage correct. Tango D Mike, connect to the ground via Echo and this frequency.
Fixing to the ramp via Echo, remaining on this frequency, Papa Hotel Tango India Mike.
Ontario Tower, Cessna 237 Charlie Alpha, approximately 4 miles to the west, inbound to land.
Number 237 Charlie Alpha, roger, inner left, traffic, left downwind runway 26 left, report base.
Enter left downwind 26 left, report your base, 237 Charlie Alpha.
Charlie Tower, United 242, on the visual for 20 right, returning for right base start.
United 242 Jolly Tower, runway 20 right, clear to land, wind 170.3.
Clear to land, cruiser right to land.
Near 520 Yankee Kilo Palomar Tower, runway 24, clear to land, wind 210 at 1. Number 237 Charlie Alpha, runway 26 left, clear to land.
Left clear to land, 7 Charlie Alpha.
Palm Springs round plus 4658 is traffic to weather going for taxi.
Plus 4658, Palm Springs ground, runway 31 right, taxi via Echo and Bravo.
Trail right via Echo Bravo 465.
Riverside Tower, good morning, November 2903 Alpha with you on the ILS.
Number 2903 Alpha, Riverside Tower, good afternoon. Runway 900 clear low approach, report miss.
November 2903 Alpha, low approach, runway 9, next report.
Palm Springs Tower plus 4658 ready to go trail right at Bravo.
Plus 4658, Palm Springs Tower, runway 31 right, clear for takeoff.
Shift takeoff trail right plus 465.
Here's our Yankee Kilo, roger, taxi into the ramp via Alpha. Plus 4658, contact South departure.
Contact departure 465.
Cessna 7 Charlie Alpha is clearly active, taxi to the GA parking base.
We're 7 Charlie Alpha, and on this frequency taxi to the South ramp via Sierra.
South Ramp via Sierra with you, 7 Charlie Alpha, thanks.
Number 03 Alpha, confirm going around or going missed?
November 2903 Alpha going missing.
Number 03 Alpha, roger, execute the published missed approach procedure.
Flying the public mid-approach procedure, November 2903.
Piper 2903 Alpha, contact SoCal departure.
Contact departure, 03 Alpha.
Number 03 Alpha, departure frequency 135.4.
135.4 for departure, November 2903.
Ontario Tower, November 516 Delta Mike, inbound ILS 26 left. Or 516 Delta Mike, Ontario Tower. Good afternoon, Ontario. Wind is calm. Runway 26 left, clear to land.
26 left, clear to land, 6 Delta Mike. Ontario Tower, November 36. Correction, 516 Delta Mike, clear to be active at uniform, taxiing to the South A ramp.
Number 6 Delta Mike, roger, taxi on South ramp via Sierra, remain on this frequency.
This year on this frequency 6 Delta.
Riverside Tower, Riverside route, November 2903 Alpha, in Alpha request taxi to the transient parking.
Number 2903 Alpha Riverside ground. In the future, don't switch to the ground frequency unless you're told to do so. Just stay with tower, exiting the runway all the way to the hold stroke point. Stay on this frequency for now, taxi to the ramp via Alpha.
Taxi to ramp via Alpha. Rocket. Via Alpha.
Runway clear. Runway clearance. November 6th. Charlie Mike Cherokee. I would like to attempt the I-4 rating today.
Cherry 76 Charlie Mike Jolly clearance. Good evening. Good luck on the I-4 destination. Will be, let's go, Kilo, Oscar, X-ray, Romeo.
That's Kilo, Oscar, X-ray, Romeo. 6 Charlie Mike.
Yes, sir. Good luck.
I'm going to sign off and collect some information for this destination. I'll sign back in. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Just report when you're back with the I-4. And how long do you think it'll be? It's not going to be more than an hour, is it?
No. I have to file and get some charts and plates.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'll still be here, so it shouldn't be a problem. And we'll look for your flight plan to come through. And we should find some.
Las Vegas Tower Plus 4658 usual 1 hour right 4500.
Plus 4658 Las Vegas Tower, runway 19 right, clear to land, wind 1807.
Clear to land 1 hour right 465.
Plus 658 exit right, taxi into the ramp via hotel. Remain on this frequency today.
Exit right, right via hotel, right frequency 58
Ground number 953 Whiskey Alpha's Hyper Comanche PH4 slide Alpha. Like taxi to the active VFR East departure with weather.
Calling Long Beach Ground, need you just verify your call sign, please.
Sorry about that. 916 Whiskey Alpha, November 916 Whiskey Alpha.
Comanche 9016 Whiskey Alpha, Long Beach Ground, roger. And just confirm VFR eastbound.
Eastbound and east ramp just south of runway 25.
Comanche 9016 Whiskey Alpha, roger. Runway 26 right, taxi via Kilo.
Okay, 25 right via Kilo, 916 Whiskey Alpha. Long Beach Tower, November 916 Whiskey Alpha, holding short of 25 right Kilo, ready for departure via parking east.
Number 916 Whiskey Alpha, Long Beach Tower, runway 25 right, clear for takeoff, right down, departure route.
Clear for takeoff 25 right, right down, and departure 6 Whiskey Alpha. Good day, Palm Springs, ground scanning Hotel Tango. East ramp, India, close traffic, 31 right.
Papa Hotel Tango, good night. Palm Springs, ground stay, good aircraft take.
Ray says no scan.
Skyline Tango, what do you mind? Thank you, runway 31 right, taxi via Echo and Bravo.
Echo and Bravo, 31 right.
We're center 791 Juliet, towards ground left.
Okay, Skype 791 Juliet. We see there's no first delivery with this field, so would we get our departure instructions with tower or with ground?
Always go with the lowest, so we'll start with ground. Just say your intentions.
Okay, Skype 791 Juliet. Type Cessna 172 on the south angles with the numbers requesting VFR advisories to jump.
Number 791 Juliet, roger. Departure frequency 134.9er, squawk 2061.
1249, that's 2061.
Got 991 Juliet, read back is correct. Are you ready to taxi now?
In a couple of minutes, just go to Skype 791 Juliet, south angles.
Sky 791 Juliet, roger. Runway 29 right. Taxi via hotel. Correction, taxi via Alpha in Juliet.
29 right taxi by Alpha and Juliet, Sky 791 Juliet.
Palm Springs Tower, Skyline Papa Tango, Mike is holding short runway 31 right, Bravo, and ready for departure, close traffic.
Hey, hello everyone. So, first time ever, ILS approach into Bakersfield. We're starting from Acqua Dulce, a non-towered airport. At sunset, there's actually currently a lot of bad weather around Acqua Dulce and I don't know, Bakersfield, and we'll have a look soon. So I thought, well, even though it might be good practice of flying the soup and all of that stuff, because we're flying on Pilot Edge, I just like to remain VFR. So I set my own weather here, but we're going to fly at dusk, so that's going to be very, very, very pretty. But as a first ILS approach, let's just take it gradually until eventually we're going to do full-fledged IFR flights with real weather, particularly when there is a lot of soup in the sky. So that's the idea. Finish, good to see you. Snickers, good to see you as well. And then welcome, guys. Welcome. Good to see you. Yes, so here we are at Acqua Dulce. Let's enjoy this wonderful field. There is some really weird AI, artificial drone traffic going on here on Pilot Edge. I think the default scenery in X-Plane has other taxiways here. Also, the terrain level is a bit different, so we're going to see some weird AI traffic here. In our case, though, we can enjoy this wonderful, wonderful scenery here at Acqua Dulce. Look at this. So what we're going to do in terms of planning, whoop, there we are. We're going to depart from Acqua Dulce, and we're going to go to Bakersfield, Meadows Field, strictly speaking, through the Gorman VOR, and this is the approach that we're going to fly into Bakersfield. A very basic ILS approach procedure. I mean, there are many more advanced, complex, elaborate procedures. This is a good start, I think, for familiarizing myself with the ILS. Now, there are many other types of approaches using, well, different kind of technology, at least. And this is actually the one that has most of that technology incorporated, which makes flying the thing, I think, a bit more easy than the more degraded, more minimized, more basic ones. So, in case of the ILS approach, we will get lateral and vertical guidance in our cockpit for making that particular approach here onto runway 30 right. So we got all the guidance that we need to make that particular approach. You also have a little bit less precision approaches, non-precision approaches, where you will not get any vertical guidance. You need to read off that guidance based off your profile picture here of the chart, and you need to account or ensure that vertical glide slope just by reading off the chart, and the nav1 here in your cockpit will only show you the lateral direction or distance you are off from that glide slope, which makes flying that approach a little bit more difficult because you need to read the chart and do stuff and calculations even while you are flying instead of just looking at your nav1 CDI and just well, hitting that cross, right? That cross-referencing of the two needles, getting those centered. So that's why I started with the ILS, and next up is going to be a VOR approach, not in this stream, but in a new stream. And that's a wonderful example of a non-precision approach where we need to account for that vertical guidance ourselves by looking at that chart. So it's going to get more difficult. We're also going to do an NDP approach that we will probably never get assigned to. There's only one, I think, in the SoCal area. But I think it's just fun to familiarize myself with those, and also just to get a more complete understanding and experience of flying IFR and all of these different approaches. We're also going to do a sidestep approach soon at LAX. Also do circling approaches, which are also quite challenging, and also a back course localizer approach. Well, there are various ones. Again, if you're curious, hop over to UncertifiedPilot.com, look at my instrument rating or rated training schedule, and you'll see what flights I've scheduled as part of my own training. So today the ILS one. Finish. When you do the flights, be sure to repeat each type of approach many times over. Oh yes, and it's also part of the additional practice flights that we're going to do. So now I'm just flying under VFR, just practicing these approaches on their own. But eventually, obviously, we're going to incorporate these as part of a complete IFR flight. And those are part of the next stage of my training in preparation of doing the I ratings. So I think that as soon as we get to the I ratings themselves, we've already covered most of the procedures and the understanding required for making those I ratings, which I think is a nice approach to my flight simulation practice. So we got a plenty of flights still scheduled where we're going to build on this experience, and I guess even beyond the I ratings, we will continue to learn about IFR flying. I guess also about VFR flying and stuff. That's the fun. I think the core of our flight simulation practice. That we always keep learning if we want to, at least if we stay curious. So no doubt that will happen. Finish. See camera, hello, good to see you. Fan of your work. Sorry that I do not understand very much, but I always watch your videos and learn them. That's good to hear, camera. Welcome. Happy Sunday. Yes, so this is the idea. So as you can see, and looking at this particular chart, there is a lot of information. And again, I already told you guys about this in previous streams. That's also something that I so much love about IFR flying. Also with VFR flying, it was actually quite the same with studying those sectionals, all of the different charts. How many information they can put into those charts is just amazing, while still making it clear for us to understand. Well, the same goes, I guess even more so for IFR charts. Look at this page, how much information there's actually there. There are wonderful YouTube videos describing how you can learn to use these kinds of charts, approach charts in your own for your own flight simulation pleasure. Particularly, again, the Pilot Edge workshop videos that are just for free out there, where Keith goes through all the different stages of your IFR flight planning, including these instrument approaches, and just tells you how you should read those and fly those, which is really, really interesting. I have also, I'm also in the position of the King School's IFR video series. Sorry. And also, in possession of the Real World IFR video series made by Pilot Edge. This is all payware, and there's so much information. It's so interesting, and I'm noticing also that there are a lot of subtleties in terms of also ATC communicating with ATC while you're doing these approaches and alternative ways of doing things. So there are a lot of details that go beyond the straight and forward doing a instrument approach that I really like to learn much more about. So I guess also in the future we're going to develop some flights, prepare some flights that challenge me at least to seek out those details and weird kind of circumstances where we well, gain hopefully a deeper understanding, a more complete understanding of the IFR system. So first things first, gradual, right? That's the incremental kind of spirit of all of my training so far. First, a basic ILS procedure, and this is it. So what do you see here? Again, you can see there are multiple sections. Generally, though, you've got the header here with a lot of information, basic information with frequencies. Obviously, on top there to the right, what kind of approach procedure are we looking at? Well, the ILS or localizer runway 30 right approach. Localizer means that there's only lateral guidance, which is actually incorporated as part of the ILS approach. So this only mentions, tells you that it's actually just an ILS approach, but sometimes technology breaks down on you, could even be during a flight, where the ILS, the vertical guidance part of the ILS doesn't work, and so we could still fly the localizer part. Those are different systems. So that's why that name is there. Missed approach information over there. Basic obstacle stuff, circling and things. Then you can see the plan view here. Just the graphical depiction that we are already a bit familiar with, looking at the departure procedures a while ago and the arrival procedures. That follows the same rules, so you can see the same thicker and thinner arrows here. You can see the vortex, you can see MEAs, radials, distances, holding patterns here. So that's not really that new. MSA, safety altitude. You can see for the Echo Hotel Foxtrot Vortex. that is Schefter. Yeah, that's the Schefter vortex. You can see here what altitudes on what heading ranges we need to stay at least to be clear of obstacles. So this is actually the highest obstacle somewhere within that 24 nautical mile range within that Schefter VOR. Again, providing some information in case we got lost, that we know that we need to be at least at that altitude for not hitting anything. Well, you can see an airport diagram over here, and I always wonder why they did that, because why do we care as part of the instrument approach to know what the airport layout would be? I mean, we just hop over to the taxi diagram that we always do with VFR flying, right? Well, one thing is that because most likely when you're flying IFR you don't have that much visibility, you are going to be surprised somehow when you clear the clouds on an approach and you see the airport. You're looking for that first initial light of the first initial sign that you see the ground and see the runway, hopefully. So it's good practice. It's really, really relevant to know what kind of first visual cues you can expect to see when you're dropping to your minimum decision height. So you can see that particular layout also from the far distance, where the light is of the control tower, a big light that is bleeping around. And what's interesting is this is a relatively small airport, so that it doesn't surprise me that the control tower would be over there and that the light is also on top of that control tower. But imagine LAX or some bigger airport or a weird layout, runway layout kind of airport where the control tower is at the side of the airport, for example. Now, if you're flying through the clouds, you might see that big shiny light of that control tower. It might be far off from the runway. And so if you know in advance where you can expect that control tower light, you will not be distracted. Same goes for the length of the runway, the slope, other obstacles nearby. So again, this is really, really relevant information, and that's why it's there. Interesting, I think, isn't it? Then you can see the profile view here. So this is a lateral or vertical view, I guess, a side view from our approach, and that's only the last part, or mainly the last part. So once we catch the ILS glide slope, hopefully. And we're going to do that at JUPEX, which is 7.6 nautical miles, or statute miles, I think nautical miles, from the localizer, BFL, Bakersfield, yeah, there it is, localizer, 111.9er. Yes. And we need to be at least 2,500 there. We can also fly higher, but I think it's better just to fly at 2,500 until we eventually catch that that glide slope. And if you look at the feeder routes here, so from that vortex, Gorman, so that's also interesting, and I still need to study a little bit more on that. I mean, we're just going to fly this as a separate instrument approach procedure, but obviously this is just a chunk, the last chunk of your entire IFR flight eventually, right? Ultimately, when we're going to do that. So what you need to do, what actually surprised me is that the actual approach that you're planning to do is not part of your flight plan that you file to ADC. So you only file the departure and the en route part of your flight, but the approach is actually something that you will be assigned to by ADC, or that you can request as you approach your airport based on the winds and stuff, or just your own preference. So preferably your en route part of your flight should end, in this case, at Gorman, because that's where your en route starts, ends, or your arrival. It could also be if you would be flying a star. In any case, that previous stage of your flight should end here at Gorman, so we can just fly over to make this particular procedure. I think you're not mandatory to do that. If you can also set up a flight plan that doesn't connect the dots, the vortex, in this way, but then ATC needs to vector you around, and that's not preferred. Perhaps even ATC is going to correct you when you request your IFR clearance, so when you're at your departure airport. So that's still, the whole complete IFR planning phase thing, preparation, is still something that I'm studying. So I've almost studied every little stage, each separate stage of the IFR planning bit, but the entire chunk, including the weather and alternates and missed approach and all kinds of other things, I still need to study, which is really, really interesting, I think. Old Guy Fly, good to see you. Make sure you turn off the Garmin. Yes, well, talking about Garmin, by the way, I've tweeted this out as well. I had some trouble with my 172, right, in the previous 2 streams with the fuel tanks and stuff. Well, apparently I removed a folder from my aircraft folder that I shouldn't have removed, the ex-Lua folder. I thought there should only be the rep plugin folder in my aircraft plugin folder of the 172, but that was not the case. So that was a self-induced error. So I reinstalled the entire thing and it works like a charm. So now we got the latest public release of the rep running. And I noticed then suddenly that we haven't been flying with the Reality XP version of the Garmin that I've also installed, which provides a lot more realism in terms of the interface and stuff of our GPS. So I've reinstalled that as well. So now we are flying with the Reality XP, and I'm not planning to fly on the GPS though, but just flying using the needles and the CDI of the Nav1 to make that ILS, and also just slant alpha catching Gorman and going to the ILS itself. But I'm also very interested to learn how to fly with the GPS because it's also a great aid. So I'm going to do that as well as part of a future IFR flight. Anyways, we need to be at 2,500. Now, one thing that I was noticing when I look at Gorman here, so if you look at the MEAs here, 9,000, you can see no procedure turn there. That's related to this holding pattern that you can use if you're too far up. If you're too high, you need to descend onto that, where is it? A final approach fix, Jupix here, where we're going to catch that glide slope. But if we're already at this particular track, then ATC or this chart says, well, don't do that procedural turn. Just fly straight into that approach. And it says 9,000, at least 9,000 for that first part from Gorman to the Liebeck fix, as you can see. That little Harry Potter lightning strike there, ball says that it's not to scale, which makes sense. That's also this Gulfy ocean kind of symbol. And then that next chunk, you can see the MEA is 4,500. Now, again, we're not flying on IFR, so we're just free to do whatever. We're flying a bit westerly, westbound in our case. So we're going to stick to an altitude of 8,500 initially and then descend. I don't know what ADC is going to tell us to do. Most likely we're not going to get assigned a IFR altitude, I think, but we'll have to see. Anyways, I need to stay at least at that kind of an altitude. 4,500 would be a VFR altitude, I think, here. So that's the altitude. So we're going to descend after Gorman. We're going to descend based off of what ATC assigns us to do. And then so then once we hit Festo intersection, I think, or what is that int? Festo int, well, Festo fix. Then we are, if I get it right, looking at the profile view, we'll be here at the start there, where we need to be at least at 2,500 feet or above. So that's the time when we need to descend in this little chunk there, but preferably, no, not preferably. I mean, I would think, as a pilot though, I would love to see the Festo fix mentioned here to the far right as well, but it doesn't. So I guess once we are flying at 4,500 on this first chunk, that we can only start the descent to 2,500 when we are at Festo and turn into the ILS. Perhaps ATC is going to assign us an altitude. I do not know. We're just VFR. And then we have, we need to subtract 7.6 from 14, so let's say 7. We have 7 nautical miles to descend from 4,500 to 2,500. So that's 2,000 feet in 7 nautical miles. Well, that's something that we can do. But it's important to, I guess, think about this. That's why I'll deliver the guide. We talked about another fault. Works now. Yes, exactly. Yeah, and the guide, yeah, finish exactly that guide. I'm really curious about that. Also the little details. Also just the practical guides of how to, again, design a complete IFR flight. What are the considerations? Yeah, really curious to learn about that. Remember to mention the feeder route you plan to use. For example, request break. Exactly, finish. Yeah, so that's what we talked about in the previous stream as well. So when you're going to do these practice approaches that you can do under VFR or under VFR, I'm going to do those under a VFR still. You can request to start the approach at any point that you like. In this case, we can do the full approach, so you can request the full approach, which is a little bit fuzzy still, which would then tell to ATC that we're going to start at Gorman, so we need to be before Gorman to do that first request with SoCal. Say, hey, here we are at approach, always at approach. Here we are at Gorman. We would like to do this particular ILS approach, 30 right. At Gorman, we can also say, give us vectors to final. Or mention any other fix, by the way, starting at Liebeck or whatever. But you can also request vectors to final. Then you just get a heading and an altitude to maintain, most likely, or a few vectors. So that ATC guides us, I think, right to the final approach fix at the point or just before that. So ATC helps us to line us up for the approach. And that's usually the most quickest way. Also with usual IFR flying, where you don't need to bother with the entire procedure here, the instrument procedure. You just get to the final approach fix and you capture that ILS and you're done. So we can request those as well, but as part of practice, as part of my training, I think it's interesting to incorporate the entire procedure here, especially when we're going to do DME arcs and other kind of stuff that we already practice separately, but to incorporate that as part of the entire procedure. So indeed, like Finish reminds me to do, is to, once we're going to call up to approach, say, hey, here, this is what we like to do. We're going to say, not only we're interested in flying the ILS runway 30 right approach into Bakersfield, but also from Gorman and under VFR. That's indeed important. Ace God, good to see you. Welcome to the stream. Okay, this is interesting stuff, isn't it? I think this is really, really interesting. And I'm still scratching the surface of this stuff, but I think I have a practical understanding, enough of a practical understanding to fly it. So let's just do that. Finally though, two things. We got the minimum. So here at the bottom, that's a table that shows us the bare minimum altitude that we can fly on the approach before we say, we cannot see the airport, no way to make this runway, we need to do our missed approach. And you can see A, B, C, D there. Those are for particular aircraft categories. So the faster you go with your aircraft during that approach, your minimum altitude is going to be different. Because we are very slow aircraft with our 172 below 90 knots. We are part of the category A of aircraft. And we have very, very good minimums here because we're flying so slow. We have much more time to look outside of the window to spot those first, the threshold of the runway. Thanks for the follow, Ace God. Thank you. Now, in our case here, what are we going to fly? Well, we are flying the ILS. If that vertical guidance thing was broken, then it's going to be the localizer. So the straight-in ILS 30 right approach. That circling one is one where we can use this approach, funny enough, for the 30 right, but then do a circling procedure just before we are at the runway and do a kind of a, this is not the right terminology, but still kind of a traffic pattern. We're circling around the runway to land from the other side. That's very interesting. We're going to practice that as well one day. And obviously, you can already look at, well, what do these numbers say? Well, the first number there is altitude MSL before that slash to the left. So at 698 feet MSL, that's the lowest that we can go while we are on the approach. If we don't spot any visual cue, and there are many cues that we can use, I think. I'm really, thanks for the follow. But not all, I think. There's a separate list. There are many, though. Flight Delta, thank you guys for the follows. Happy Sunday. Welcome. That's the lowest that we can go on that ILS, and that 18 is 1,800 feet of visibility that we need to have in terms of weather minimums in this case. And the 205 there is the AGL height that we need to go. And that's very important to note because obviously if you look at the METARs, those are AGL based, right? The ceilings of an airport are based on AGL. So, but this is the one that you're going to read out on your altimeter. So that's why this is very important. So actually once we break out from the clouds with minimum weather, even to be legally allowed to make this approach, 200 feet we can go down. There's only 200 feet between us and the ground. once we're going to clear those clouds and we're going to make that runway. That's low. That's really, really low. In between brackets here is pretty much the same, but that's for military aircraft, and you can ignore that chart. Now, as you can see, for all these different categories of aircraft here, for the straight-in ILS 30 right approach, we have the same minimums. We can all go to about 700 feet MSL. If the vertical guidance breaks off, you can see how much more insecure ATC becomes. Instead of 700 feet that we can go down, or 205 feet AGL, now we can only go up to 940. Much sooner ATC would like us to see the runway, because we're a little bit more at risk flying that approach without vertical guidance. They don't trust us that much, you could say. Same goes with circling. You can see that, yeah, so again, with an ILS we can reach our destination airport with much worse weather. And that's the whole idea. And that also means that as part of your preparation, I guess once you get to your destination and the weather develops, make sure that you're legally allowed to make that particular approach. If the weather is too bad, you cannot. It's not that with IFR you can land at any destination airport at any given weather setting, right? The weather can be too bad also for IFR aircraft. Obviously in terms of winds, if the winds are too strong, but also in terms of visibility. Chili, good to see you. I see that now, Roger. Roger, hope you're doing well. Finish. There's an important difference between the minimums on a precision road and a non-precision road, as we'll see in the neighbor. Exactly. All flights, a hood to practice just view panel, simulate the under. Oh, exactly. Also very satisfying when you switch to normal view, and this all should be yes, old fly. Totally agree. And I already did a ILS practice a while ago, just flying the ILS. That was not on Pilot Edge, and I did pretty well, but I have to be honest, I'm a bit anxious today. Let's see if I can do this also under VFR. Okay, so that's the brief, I think. Well, I'm not going to incorporate the missed approach, so because we're also flying on VFR and the sun is setting, no doubt that we're going to make that landing. I'm also going to incorporate missed approaches as well. It's fun in this case. That's also very, very handy of the profile view here. That's those three little boxes. Straight ahead, 1,000 feet, or climb 1,000 feet. Right turn to 3,000 and catch that radial 145 into Shafter. And hold there until further instructions. Or you can just use the holding to think about what you're going to do. But I mean, in this case, you can just practice those missed approaches. But think about, I think I would be actually quite, well, not really confused, but taken off guard or something like that. Once we have planned an entire flight, we are already short on fuel. Obviously, you should do proper fuel planning. But imagine that we're descending, doing that approach. The minimums are too bad. We don't spot the runway or any kind of other visual thingy of the aircraft in time. So we're going to do that missed approach. We follow that missed approach procedure. We're going to go and say, ATC says, well, what you want to do, Papa Hotel Tango India Mike? Well, apparently within the airport vicinity, the weather is too bad. What are we going to do? So then from that missed approach point, we need to divert to our alternate airport. That's really flexible, creative on the go. Obviously, you're going to plan that as well, but yeah, also not really the motivational, but it's on there's going to be a significant cognitive load coming in, and this is still something that I can oversee, this particular approach that we're going to do today. But yeah, things are going to get busy, and then with the strain of ATC and new stuff, yeah, you're going to see me sweat, guys, I guess, very, very soon. TechnoSim, good to see you as well. Is this chart suitable only for approach from the south? No, not necessarily, because you can also do a circling approach, but that's not really the typical kind of thing to do. And again, as I mentioned, you can just use this approach, go all the way down until you reach that minimum, and then circle around to land on the other side. And obviously, you can also look at Bakersfield itself, this particular airport, and look for a specific approach procedure for the other runway. Usually they are. Approach procedure. So, again, this is the entire flight. El Guadalche, non-towered airport. in this case, if we had IMC right now here in Aquadelcia, which we haven't, luckily, at least with my custom weather settings, then we would have looked at an obstacle departure procedure if there was any. And there isn't anyone. There isn't a obstacle departure procedure. So think about this. Bad weather, or even flying at night, a lot of terrain, no ATC. How are you going to depart and make sure that you're not going to hit anything while you do so? And this would be a diverse departure. So we know that we need to depart at least with 200 nautical miles or 200 feet per nautical mile. So a usual 500 feet per minute climb would be very, very important. That's a little bit scary, to be honest. I guess no one would even dare to do that. But these are interesting considerations. Also just daunting how challenging an IFR flight can be when you're really following that through by the book and at night and in IMC stormy weather. We need to avoid thunderstorms and stuff. Man. So we're going to go to Gorman. Before we reach Gorman, I'd like to be at 8,500. We're going to fly a little bit easterly. Again, we're under VFR. We need to be at least 9,500, looking at the chart for that initial chunk, or 9,000. Again, let's see what ATC is going to tell us. We're going to contact SoCal approach, usually always approach. They're going to squeeze us in if there's any traffic flow on PA. I guess not. Our pilot is not even live. Not going to expect that much traffic. So yes, SoCal approach. What frequency? Well, again, looking at the magenta boxes, right? SoCal approach, but I guess this is also mentioned on the approach plate. 120.4 I expect, but perhaps, no, look at this. Bakersfield approach control 118.8. We're coming from the south, so that's the frequency that we're gonna pick. So let's write that down right away. 118.8 it was. Yes. Yeah, and we're just going to do, it's kind of like flight following that we're going to request. We're also going to get assigned a squawk code, I guess. Not quite sure. And we're going to say, hey, here we are, just a few miles south of Gorman at 8,500, requesting the ILS approach runway 30 right into Bakersfield from Gorman under VFR. So we're going to be very, very explicit and clear what we like to do. We like to practice that approach. Yeah. And then we're going to follow that instrument procedure and get into Bakersfield on an ILS approach. Yikes. Guys, I need your support and cheers. My gosh. Hey, Jill Fly, good to see you. Chili Willies, wait, is Pilot H90 now because of... No, it's going to go... Pilot is going to go live in 20 minutes, isn't it? You can do the diverse departure procedure unless there is at least one approach procedure there. Yes, exactly. Exactly, Jill Fly. Okie doke. Enough of a chat. Let's get going. Wonderful Aquadelcia, the sun is setting. Again, AI traffic that's doing weird stuff because apparently these flights were recorded back in the day when default X-plane scenery had taxiways on the wrong side of the airport. I don't know. Ship 4, let's look at our wonderful Skyhawk here. Again, reverted back to the stable release of sim coders here. That's wonderful, and we also got the Reality XP GNS that we're not going to use, but perhaps I'm going to rely on those if I really get lost. Also really cool, very short before I start, yesterday I visited my local airport, the 172 SP, for the build of my own Skyhawk, right? I'm building my own for X-plane, highly detailed, animated, new. I'm totally new to developing aircraft. Since made the flight model of the 172, which was pretty cool. I now captured all kinds of videos of the actual performance, just the gauges and what they do during takeoff and taxi, what the taxi turn rate is, and just to get real evidence for what we need to optimize our Skyhawk for. And man, was I surprised. For example, taxiing. I knew that we need differential braking for making turns with the Skyhawk, like we do also on X-plane. But the amount of taxi turn rate without using any brakes, so just the pedals, is minimal. it's only just a few degrees, full deflection. That's totally different from what we're doing here. So I guess I'm gonna work in Playmaker to fix that as well. So you really need to turn using the differential braking. It depends a bit on how much RPM you also have, because then you can also have a little bit more steering going on, but still, surprise. Also stall speed, we're flying with 3 persons on board. We did a flaps up speed and a flaps up stall and a flaps down stall. We went so slow, even beyond the bottom wide arc. It was really a surprise, and far off from the Laminar 172, the Simcoder's 172, my 172. So X-Plane is not doing the right things given the proper structural airframe of the 172. So I guess we need to expand the width of our wings even further than they were before, just to compensate for that fact. I was also flying that thing on my own, just flying a traffic pattern with the 172, and it just doesn't want to go down. I mean, here in X-Plane at least, and I've also flown A2A on Prepared, it's the same. When I pull back on the throttle, the thing just drops already gently. Well, there, and winds all incorporated, it just stuck there. The thing wouldn't go down. It was amazing, even with 3 persons aboard, and 75% of fuel or so. That surprises me. But anyway, so I learned a lot. We're going to optimize that as well beyond March. Just make some progress first with IFR flying. Okay. Now we really need to get going. Shift 9. There we are in our little cockpit. I've also installed Pretzel here, Pretzel Rocks. Again, if you're interested in streaming and flying with music, get Pretzel Rocks that I was also using for my 172 build streams. Royalty-free music. It's not the best music, but it is music. And I've installed it here as well. And if I'm right, I've also even can just set it on by using some clicks. Yeah, because I love to fly with music on, actually. Let me know if the sound volume is too loud or whatever. Okay, so there we are in the cockpit. Let's sync. Very good. Yeah, let's do proper tests here. So first off, let's remove the pitot tube cover. Removed. Yes, we can do. We're gonna go back first. A cold and dark check. Parking brakes, are they set? They are now. Live fast fire extinguisher, doors closed, windows are closed. ELT set to auto. Flap lever is up and our flaps are up. My mixture is working. Throttle is working. Trim is working. Set a little bit downwards. Fuel tanks finally set to both. In and alternators in. Avionics off. All the switches are off except for the beacon, that's good. Batteries are off, and this my Cytec switch panel works as well. Wonderful. Let's check our control surface to the right. That one goes down, that one should go up. Otherwise, that one should go down, and that one should go up. Very good. Elevators, up, down. Let's look at our trim tab. I mean, our trim wheel could work, but it doesn't mean that our trim tab would also work. Rotors work too. Wonderful. Then batteries on. We see some fuel. I'd like to have a little bit more fuel. Just a bit. Okay. Yeah, batteries on. That's good. Then let's check for all the lights and stuff. Landing lights, the whole bunch, and also the pitot heat. And let's do a check. Pitot. Yeah, probe temperature. Yeah, so it's warming up. That's good. Lights check. Beacon lights, position lights, strobe light, position lights, landing taxi lights, position and strobe. Good. Wonderful. So everything off except for beacon and the pitot heat off. Good. Then we can do our first initial test to see if everything is working. And again, that's the display that you like to see when you run the Reality XP module. Anyways, that's what we're going to check right now. Flaps down. See if they go down, and if they go down in sync. Looks good. Transponder is off. I've set to VFR. That's good. expiring and database. Yeah, it seems to be working. That's fine. Good. Annunciator messages work too. We can already sync our compass here to 15. Far off. 215. Altimeter, what's the airport elevation? So we can test if our altimeter is working. Let me see. Aqua Dulce 2660. That's pretty accurate so far. Still, we need to compare that to the actual barometric pressure, and then we know whether our altimeter is working. But still, this is good. Set. Yeah, wonderful. So avionics off, batteries off. Let's do our walk around. Pre-flight. Let's go. Baggage door closed. Look at all the inner components here. Antennas, rudders, look good. Tie-down is removed. ELT antenna is good. Flaps have a wiggle. We should also check all the inner components here. Free. Tie-down is removed. Connie, I've also made some pictures or videos just looking in the tanks yesterday, which is also really, really fun. And again, I'm going to animate the crap out of that 172 that we're going to make. But it was really, really fun. Like really getting intimately more familiar with the 172. It was like being in a candy store. It was really, really fun. Yeah, good. Chocks removed. Good. Engine, the tires, supreme. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. Oil quantity looks good. Good color. Cover is removed. Look at the dents. Everything looks fine. Also, what's interesting is you also want to check the. That's also what I'm going to animate in my 172. This is just a plain picture, as you can see. But I'm going to model a few more components in the engine in our 172. One thing that you also like to check is the alternator belt that is connected to the crankshaft there. So, because the engine then is running, or that crankshaft is running, it also drives the alternator, which generates power and stuff, and you want to know that that thing is actually still there, which we can just animate. So that's what we're going to do too. Strut looks all good. Tire status was good as well. Pitot tube removed. Lights, everything is intact. Ailerons look good. Flaps have a little bit of a wiggle. Inner components, blah blah blah. Toggles, or the chocks toggled, removed, and there we go. Wonderful. So that completes our pre-flights. I need to go to the bathroom very, very quickly, and then we're ready to go. Does need to do ratings, so 172, I rating 5 on my I ratings. I'm really looking forward to those as well. Invisible, thanks for the follow. Guys, 1 minute. Alrighty, just turn off the light there, the room light, which wasn't supposed to happen. Okay, so pre-flight done, ready to go. So first off, fasten your seatbelts. Also, fun fact: you need to fasten your seatbelts before you close the door. In my case, it doesn't really matter, but in terms of flight simulation, it doesn't really matter. And also in my office chair here, where I have my seatbelts on, it also doesn't really matter. But just a fun fact: the actual connector there is not that far up. It's actually much more further down. So if you close the door, you cannot get there. Door closed. Very good. Again, batteries on. Parker brakes are set. Fuel tank set to both. Bit of a throttle. Fuel pump on. Let's see, positive fuel flow. 1, 2, 3. That's observed. And we are ready to go. Again, is no one walking around? I don't think so. Clear prop. Mixture full in, back to both. Oil pressure is already in the green, very good. No annunciator messages. Let's lean for ground. There we go. Alternator on. See a rise in the M meter, that's good. Avionics on. There we go. Flaps up. And we can reset our RPM to 1000 and allow our engine to warm up. Good. Let's set on our transponder to mode C. On, all self-testing, blah, blah, blah. But this is cool. This is all incorporated now. Reality XP. Alright, so there we are. Meanwhile, we can set all of our radios and pause. Okay, so what are we going to set? First, frequency CTEP 1 to 2.8. 1 to 2.8. Boom. Next frequency that we're going to need is that approach, circle approach, 118.8. Yes. Also like to turn on the volume just a tiny bit. Let me see. Yes, those are in terms of frequencies that in the COM2 we're going to set ADIS, obviously. Well, what do we need? Oh, my air server has quit. What do I need to do? I think I need to reconnect here. Screen mirroring. Let's try again. Boom, that looks good. Thank you. Yes, we don't have AWAS on Aqua Dulce, so let's just set the frequency to Bakersfield then, or Meadowsfield. That's 118.6. There we go. Another COM frequency that we might need in the COM2. No, I don't think so. This is just fine. Okay, so those are the comms. Now let's go to the navs. Well, obviously we need Gorman 116.8.1 116.1 confirmed, and let's also identify it if we already catch it. Not yet, so that's important. So we're not sure right now that we actually set Gorman 116.1 and it's also set 116.1, but we haven't got any signal yet, as we can also see here in the nav one. Okie doke. Then, obviously, our next heading will be, I think, the actual localizer. The ILS localizer, which is 111.9er. Also here at the top, you can see 111.9er at the left top corner. So that's what we're going to set as well. 11. Can you remember stuff, Tim? Yes. That's nav1, and that's set already. 116. Okay, that's a nice coincidence. Okay. That's set indeed. Now I'm not quite sure whether we should actually set the OBS as well. Does that work with an ILS? I guess not, because the lateral guidance is still a localizer, which is just one radial that it sends out. But I guess perhaps for the sake of my own landing, as a reference, I guess, let's just set it. 3-1, or more precisely 3-0 actually. 3-0-1. Like that. Yes, and for Gorman I'm going to do this. No, I'm not going to do the same, because for Gorman we're just going to fly straight in. Thinking about that, procedurally, we need both VORs, or the localizer and the VOR of Gorman, at the same time. So rather, yeah, I'd rather do the opposites. I will set nav 2 to Gorman, 116.1. Yeah, so that's nav 2. Yeah, and then for the nav 1, I'm going to set the localizer already. Yes. So for Gorman, we're going to follow that nav 2. Yeah, and from that moment on, we're going to fly the 344 degree outbound radial. Roger. Yeah, but first inbound. Okay, that's set, and that's the only thing that we need to set, I think. One thing that we can do just to be a little bit more fancy and prepared, which we're not going to do, is also to set the shafter VOR in our standby nav1 in case we're going to do a missed approach that we're not going to do, so we can very quickly shift. That's also one tip by King Schools, which was really handy and obvious in a way. Every frequency, every equipment that you have or device in your cockpit should do something, or should be set to something meaningful in your flight. There shouldn't be anything that's just left there flying along, which is a good kind of principle, I guess. 115.4. Yeah, so once we are in that missed approach procedure, we could very simply just shift, and we don't need to look up frequencies and stuff. Yes. Ah, finish, exactly. Also shafter on standby. Exactly. That's it. Anything else? No, I don't think so. 112.8 is the CTEF currently. 111.9er is the Gorman that we already set. That's the nav 1, and in the nav 2 we have 116.1. that is the Gorman. Yeah, so 111.9er is the localized, the ILS localizer. Yes. And we already got a reading, by the way. 41.6 nautical miles. Perhaps because I now installed the Reality XP, the audio panel doesn't work like it was with the default layout, and I need to press other buttons here to make the thing do the nice more sound codes, but I'm not quite sure anymore. But this looks good. Before, you can also hear the identifier, which is ITOA. That looks like Torrance or something else. I would expect to see a BFL. So that doesn't really bode well. 119.9, yeah, it's double checked. Okay, so we need to be careful with that. Okay, I would love to see an identifier there. Okay, that's about it. We're ready to go, I think. And SoCal was on the standby. Yeah. Yeah, let's zoom out as well, Tim. Great. Engine is already in the green. That's good. And again, no annunciator messages. What are we going to set our heading back to? Well, what we could do, we need to fly. Well, we're just going to capture Gorman. I think we don't even need it. What are the winds? I'm not quite sure. Let's look for that first, and let's set the heading back to the heading or the runway that we're going to fly. But at the same time, though, we got air traffic there, so let's just align ourselves with the traffic. Okay, I'm done. We could also zoom out the the GPS there. Good. I think we're ready to go. Alrighty. Parking brakes released. Brake test works. Let's get to Bakersfield. First ILS approach, guys. Alright, no winds. Or winds calm at least. And there we go. Turn indicator, slip indicator, heading indicator, everything seems to work just fine. Attitude indicator is stable. Bit more power there. And again, I'm just using my pedals here to steer, but that's not how it is done in the real world. Yeah, so again, we're going to depart 8,500 to Gorman. Once we're near Gorman, I'm going to call up SoCal. What's the time actually? Yep, it's exactly 5 o'clock here in the afternoon in the Netherlands, and it means Pilot Edge is live. Can go a bit faster, Tim. I think we're not even allowed to take off to the other, from the other side of the runway because of that hill. Chill, Ito and have the same frequency. Roger that. So again, emphasizes the relevance of identifying the your beacons, the things that you set, because now we read out a wrong yeah, beacon. If we're now going to fly to that particular beacon, we're going to fly to the wrong direction. So what are we going to expect? Well, a heading of 295, so 300s. So we can set our heading bug to that. Yeah, that makes sense, northwest. So in either case, we're going to fly that direction, and let's see what it does. Now, if we are not able to catch Gorman, even while we are flying towards it, which would be a little bit of a bummer. Thanks for the follow, Ash. Oh, that's an interesting approach. But I think, yeah, it's already... Wow. I think the airport elevations are a bit off. Whoa. Okay, engine is already, yeah, oil temperature's in the green. Very, very good. Let's first do a additional test. Looks good. Looks good. Alright, make sure full in. 1800, there we go. No initiator messages. Everything is stable. Oil pressure is still there. Very good. Left mag. Good enough. Drop back to both. Right mag. Good enough. Drop back comparable. Back to both. Very good. Idle. Let's see if the engine's still running. That's a shadow bug or a sunset bug or something of X-plane. Still no voltmeter. Oil pressure still in the green. Very good. And back to 1000. Okay. One notch of flaps. Trim is set to take off bit. Nose down as I prefer. Landing lights on. Strobe lights on. What are we doing here? So again, because I don't know what's actually going on, before I'm going to announce, let's just first do a 360 here to the right and make sure there is no one. No, I don't see anyone there. Okay, let's go. Aquadelta traffic. Sky Hotel Tango Mike is departing runway 22 for a departure to the northwest to 8,500. Aquadelta. There we go. Again, everything is full in. We're fully lit up. Let's go, guys. Bakersfield. I don't think if I'm even able to take off from this yellow bit of the runway. I should have actually taxied along to this point. Airspeed is alive. We're still in the green. Track that center line, Tim. Feel a little bit cowboy-like. 50. And 60. And rotate. Oh, yeah. Nose down a bit. And I'm noticing an error. My RPM is low. It's at 2000. You can see I cannot reach. Fuel tank set to both. Fuel cutoff is still in. Let's put on our fuel pump. See if that does anything. That doesn't do anything. Make sure it's still in. We got engine trouble, guys. I'm not going to take my chances. I'm going to turn around. Ah, there it goes. It could be Keith on the channel that's messing around, but I'm not quite sure. A Keith-induced problem, but this looks good. but I don't like unreliable thingies. So unless I get a confirmation of what's going on here, I will return to the airport. There we go. Looks good still. Traffic there on my 2 o'clock. Those are actually military guys. It's a formation flight. Yeah, that's the corridor that we're going to pass. Engine is still good. Oil pressure is still there. Let's lower that speed. Fuel pump off. Let's see what that does with the RPM. It's looking good. What was going on there? Engine ice, what's the temperature? 7 degrees? No, it was a glitch, and I think it was Keith. Airflow restriction. Nice, Keith. You missed a static RPM check on takeoff, though. You only had around 2,000 RPM during takeoff roll. Yes, that's true. So the run-up power check only went up to 1,800. So I guess what you're saying is during the takeoff roll, yeah, that's the first moment where you can also test full power. That's a good one. Thanks. I always love it. These interventions. And they're so practically action driven, not just like, hey Tim, you should actually do this, but let's give it more like an experiential approach to learning. I really appreciate it, Keith. Interesting. Thanks for the follow, San. Thank you. Anyways, let's get to my bearings. We are climbing. I'm a little bit too slow still. I should have done also a couple of announcements here, but busy with other things. And I guess that's also something that you should look out for, because you could, like you can fixate on a particular instrument on your panel, you could also fixate on a particular task. And now I'm totally involved with checking what's going on in a stage of flight where I should actually also look outside, terrain avoidance and stuff. So yeah, co-pilot stuff. Again, we got a problem. We want to fly to Gorman, but we're not getting Gorman. We're getting some weird other kind of, and we also don't see, well, that's GPS. Let's set it to nav. That makes also a little bit more sense. So what's going on here? Again, 111.9er. Gorman. 116. Oh no, sorry. Yeah, nav 2, Tim. Wakey. 116.1. Set in the nav 2. 116.1, and we don't have a reading. Perhaps because of the terrain. Compass and heading indicator is still pretty much in sync, so that doesn't please me. Let's get over to approach. Static thrusts. Also wanted to show how a failure when you're focused on top. Exactly. I'll leave you alone. Thanks, Keith. Thank you for dropping by. I appreciate it, really. Yeah, 2200. Okay, that's gotcha. Yeah, so what we could do instead, obviously, is make it a turnaround to a, again, GPS-based approach. Perhaps our VOR is off or is not working. So let's see if I can still make this work, actually. I do see a Vortec there, but that is not called Gorman.
Let's go to Whiskey. Roger, taxi parking
should
via
be
Charlie Alpha.
Golf Mike November,
and,
obviously.
You can cross the ILS critical area, monoground.
There's Gorman. Okay, so let's see how we can do this. I totally forgot already. We already spent a few streams on how to work with the GPS. I would just go direct, and I just put in, I've even set up my radio panel to work with this, but obviously I don't know anymore. So that's going to be Gorman. Core. Yeah, it starts with the K at first. That's it. Thank you. Thank you very much. G. I should also lean and do all kinds of other stuff right now. I don't want to press that clear cursor, so this is a bit annoying. And again, emphasizes why I should actually use my radio panel or familiarize myself with the panel, because then this would not be a risk. Yes, and then I say enter, and that's the VOR that I want to have. I want to go up. Up. Oh, it worked. What worked? Ireland? No, I don't want to go to Ireland. Oh, it's just a VOR, but which one VOR? Southwest USA. Yes. Enter. Activate. Enter. Boom. There we go. Yes. Very good. And we're drifting off like no one's business. And that's not good. Let me see. We're still climbing 8,000. Yeah, that's good. We're already past our thingy there, so we can lean. There we go. Ah, thanks, Techno. Yeah, but it's weird that we don't get Gorman, and that also means that we're not able to fly that first initial thing. So can even further lean, perhaps. Yes, there we go. Landing lights off, by the way. Okay, and everything looks good. There's 8,500. Well, I guess now it makes sense why that MEA of that first initial leg from Gorman would be 9,000. Look at that terrain. We're going to stick here. Trimming down, the airspeed to increase first. Wonderful scenery here, guys. It's such a cool area.
5 Alpha Whiskey, contact Santa Barbara approach 120.55 is you.
It could be that the terrain is in between us and the Gorman VOR, and that's the reason why we don't get it. But or perhaps X-Plane is just fixated now on that other VOR. We should just need to reset it and see if it then picks up. Alright, this looks all good. We're pretty high. Let's see what our true airspeed is.
Medevac 505 Whiskey, Santa Barbara approach, Santa Barbara altimeter 3002, descend maintain.
Does this work?
8,000, and did you say you had an approach question?
So this is, yeah, this would be 8,000, right? And I set it to 8,000, so now we're flying
Santa Maria Airport, after Santa Maria Airport,
108
vector ILS approach.
Yeah, that should correspond with the POH. Okay. Okay, good. -1 degrees. Okay, so now we finished off our departure stuff here. There's traffic.
Let's go 994 Lima.
Again, that military route. Yeah, so let's do that. Nav 1, that's the localizer. But I'm looking at the Nav 1, I should not look at the... It's a Nav 2, Tim, that's the Gorman, Nav 2. But it's still also the Nav 1, by the way, that's off. Yeah, but think, please think.
424 Charlie Papa, Torrance Crown.
So that's the shafter, that works. Back to the localizer. No. Perhaps the ILS, and also because it's a localizer, it's not a high range kind of thing. So that could also explain it.
Correction, runway 11 left.
Why we don't get
Taxi
Gorman?
Via Alpha
That's
Bravo.
weird. Nav 2, let's redo. And switch back. What we can then do is nav 1. Let's set that to 116.1. And there you go. There's Gorman. So it's the nav 2 that is not working. That could be because I set my reality XP in a weird way. So let's pretend that it's in op. It's not working. Let's use this one then. We're not going to use the missed approach. Tim, why are you going that direction? Yes. Okay, and that's 16, yeah. And we got on the nav 1 is the localizer there, yeah. So we're gonna do some switching with stuff. Okay, still double check our heading indicator with our compass. Looks good. Okay. Okay. I'm so predictable, I guess, Keith. Bravo Lima seems to be correct. Your second GPS unit is set to the GPS mode. How do... Oh, yes. I didn't know that it could do that. And now when I click it, it does work. Thank you, Bravo. I should have read... I need to read the text much more often. Sorry, guys. Yes, then I'm going to revert. So, yeah, Schefter was... what the... was 115.4. And F2 should now be 116. Yeah, 119. Yeah, exactly. 116.1, Tim. Don't want to fly a particular radial here, but let's go. Okay. The only thing now is that I don't really have a DME readout for how far we are away from Gorman when I'm doing my initial request with SoCal, but I guess we're just going to give a general direction.
64 Lima, Fulton Tower. Reckless track, approved report method down each time, runway 24, clip takeoff, wind calm.
Okay, let's do that initial call. Let's see what happens. ILS approach, runway 30 right, into Bakersfield, under VFR, from Gorman. That should do it, I guess. SoCal approach, Sky Papa Hotel Tango Mike, VFR request.
PHTIM, go ahead.
Papa Hotel Tango Mike is Cessna Sky Oxland Alpha. We're currently about 10 miles southeast of the Gorman VOR at 8,500. We'd like to practice the ILS runway 30 right approach into Bakersfield under VFR from Gorman, if that's possible.
PHTIM 1533 ident.
5333. 5333 and identity. Papa Delta Mike.
1533.
1533. 1533. 1533 for Papa Delta Mike. We are identity. There we go.
PHTM radar contacts 7 miles east of Gorman VOR. I can go to 3011 and you say you want to do the ILS from Gorman, is that correct?
Correct, from Gorman ILS 30 right.
PHTM radar project approved, no separation services provided.
ILS approved, 30 right, Papa Delta Mike. Okay. So that's really basic, I guess. We could just do our own little thing. One thing though that I don't know, perhaps if Keith is still here, the MEA Keith for the ILS 30 right, the first initial that first initial chunk from Gorman to that first fix is 9,000. As a VFR pilot right now, can I just stick at 8,500 or whatever altitude I like? As long as I stay VFR? or should I go up at least above 9,000 because that's the MEA? Or anyone who knows this in chat, guys, please let me know. 111. Good. Now let's get to the VOR. And we also got the Bakersfield, by the way, guys. Look, it now says, it now catches it. So that's good. Fly as published. Yeah, but what does that mean, finished? Then should I go at 9,000?
Only 4 clip the option.
I mean, this chunk here, 9,000. Should I fly 9,000 or should I be at least at 9? It's the MEA, isn't it? Or is it the actual altitude that I need to fly? Also got a reading now of the ILS, it seems. Or it does something. Oh yeah, that's already what I mentioned. Ignore. Let me go up to 9,000 at least. MEA. Hey Josh, thanks. Yeah, but again, I know it's MEA, but I'm now flying under VFR. So couldn't I just ignore the MEAs because I'm practicing it under VFR, or should I get to at least 9,000? 9,000 good, it's the minimum, roger, okay. Full power then. I'm not really tracking Garmin at all, just really excited about this actually. Okay, so once we're there at Gorman, we need to fly the 344 radial. 344. Already setting that heading bug there. So that's that. That's going to be the inbound there. Yes. Good. Exciting. My first ILS approach, guys. Shall we also go up a bit more because I don't have that much time? Can we still lean a bit more? Oh yes, we sure can. Full power we already have. We need to account for our own traffic separation, as ATC said, so we are on the VFR. That's the idea.
If I want to ramp SoCal approach, squawk 2035 IDET, say request.
What's going to be our next frequency? It's going to be tower, so that's 118.1. Let's also set that while we have the time. 118.1. Good. And 111.9er is set in the nav1. We can also set that to 301. Okay. So flying that needle, looking for that flip. We also see it on the GPS, but
We'll take a Bravo SoCal approach, radar contact 3 miles north of the thermal VOR, Palm Springs altimeter 3004.
there goes the needle, I guess. Yeah, roger, finish. Yeah, but this is not handy because oh yeah, I see the distance on my GPS. Yeah, I need DME also for that first initial fix over here, that Liebeck. Oh, no, I can also do a cross-reference there. Interesting. Interesting. All right. Again, want to see that flip. Practically over it, so we can already turn. But what the heck? Arriving at waypoint. Arriving at waypoint. You can see on the GPS. Want to see that flip. There it goes. Okay. So making that turn, standard rate turn, or whatever, to 344. We need to set our OBS here to 344. And it's double checked, 344, 344. Into Bakersfield, guys! And again, I know that many of you are so much more experienced and knowledgeable of IVAR flying. For me, this is the first time, so really, really excited.
First 6 holding runway 24, click the option.
Okay. There we go. Waiting for that needle of the nav2. Again, I'm looking at the GPS here to get a DME distance idea, and I need that for getting to Liebeck. Gorman 13.6. And then we can start with the descent to 4,500, if I understand it correctly.
Fort Charlie Papa, change.
There comes the needle of the nav2. Yeah, roger that, Techno. I know. There comes the needle on the nav2. Still 9,000. Engine looks good. Want to be a little bit more on that radial.
Air 14 Fort Charlie Papa, Hawthorne Tower, squawk 4222. Remain outside Bravo airspace. Hawthorne altimeter 3007. 3222. Five Alpha Whiskey, fly heading 280 to set and maintain 4,000.
Look at that, guys. This is such a nice area. I should fly here so much more often. Why is my track IR doing weird stuff? A little bit more to the top. Let's resync. And don't do two things at the same time, Tim. Come on. Five nautical miles on the DME. There we go. Again, imagine, I mean, I'm flying the 172 right now, so things are going very, very slow, which is very good for a student. But I know that also many of you are just flying jets and stuff. And then things get a lot more, can get a lot more challenging. This is a relatively basic approach. I guess one of the easiest, at least I hope so. That's why I chose this one.
Squawk 6773.
Alright, 9,000-ish. Engine is still looking good.
Turn Juliet's affirmative. Squawk 6773.
6 nautical miles. Yeah. Let's set a little bit more of a sunset here. Hey, Sen.
Here we go.
I'm not flying radials like I should. And why am I sloppy? Because I'm changing my attention to different things. I should just first say, okay, everything is stable. The current task is to get on the needle and stabilize. And only after that I can change my attention to something else. And obviously, some approach or some procedures, instrument procedures require you to do multiple things at the same time. So I know that this is still easy peasy, but that's also something that I'm really fascinated by. Also, in terms of serious flight simulation practice that we are doing, is that the same psychological factors come into play in terms of cognitive overload, multitasking, Like with the departure when Keith was messing around with our engine. Ah, there's our proper reading now of our ILS. And that's also, I guess, emphasizes or stresses the relevance, educational relevance of flight simming, especially for real-world pilots, for pilot student pilots. You can really come a long, long way. And okay, the flaring and the stalls and all that stuff is not really perfect in X-Plane yet, but the intellectual, academic dimension is very, very realistic, especially now with HC. 10 nautical miles. Again, we're looking for 13.6. Man, it's interesting. I'm noticing that in my mind,
I don't have your code
when
yet.
I was looking at the approach charts,
Fort Charlie Papa Verify Squawk 4222.
it looks like I need to do a lot. It looks like much more stressful. But now with the 170, if I fly the thing, it's okay. 14
Fort Charlie
miles
Papa, that was contact tower 119.8. Yeah.
on a radial. This is X-Plane game. Looking good.
Sky 64, let me run 24 clip for the option.
I can already see Bakersfield. Or it might be... No, that's Bakersfield. There was also a non-towered Bakersfield. This might be that one. Alright, 12.5.
Roger, for that 3.
I should incorporate many more views like this, outside views.
Report 24 Charlie Los Angeles Tower. Ident.
There we go. Alright, pull back on the throttle. Let's go down. 4,500. Hey Digital, good to see you. Sticking on that radial, so now we're flying.
Airport Charlie Papa, contact 5 miles
just
south of the airport.
Cross the back.
Airspace, minute northbound, maintain VFR 2500.
14.4 nautical miles until we are at Pasto, which you can also cross-reference with the localizer. Can go down a bit more, Tim. I mean, we have plenty of time to get there, I guess, but should be able to calculate that. 9,000 and 4,500. So that's 45 in 14.4 miles. Let's go down.
Air 700 to the Sierra Gentleman ground. Save your ramp.
Good, good, good. Looks good. Keep a little bit to the right there. Awesome.
To the Sierra, Roger, I see you there. Runway 20 left, taxi Alpha Hotel, Charlie Kilo.
Thanks for the follow, Groma.
Are you on the radio?
So as you can see, looking at the CDI here.
For Charlie Papa, the other thing is it is a VFR procedure. All VFR procedures
that
are flyable.
The glide slope is now above us, which is obvious.
So
this far away.
You should be referencing the runway 25 left numbers to the runway 24 right numbers and remaining east of the tower. So right where you are, you're right in the way of the airliners that would be taken off. Yeah, you leave the Bravo airspace in 1 mile. Radar service terminated. Contact Santa Monica Tower 120.1.
Ah, digital, nice. Yeah, I'm also interested in that updated ortho video.
Airfield 1 Tango. G cleared to Kanab Airport.
I'd like to also redo my photoreal with a photoreal lakes and coastlines as well. I'm wondering whether...
Contact Los Angeles Center 133.55 and I get you higher. Climbing team Pablo 230.
What is my computer doing? Or X-Plane is doing? Oh, there we go. I mean, I'm descending with 500 feet per minute. Yeah, and again, I'm...
Our 42 Charlie Papa, Santa Monica Tower, northbound transition approved at or above 2000 off VFR.
So if I look at the charts, Festo, or 14.8, is actually cross-referenced with the... yeah, I could just use the localizer. I could just use, I was also worried about Gorman, but just use
the taxi park and have a good day.
that needle.
Rainbow 1 Tango Bravo, Los Angeles Center, climbing team Pablo 240.
Put on our landing lights, also our nav lights, by the way. Ah, right, digital. Hope you're doing well with that trainee ship. Okie-do. Alrighty. There's always something to do. I'm getting comfy, and like with VFR flying, never, if you get comfy, it's a cue that you should not be comfy. What do we do? I don't have the ADAS yet. COM2. Switch. And the ADAS was 118.6. Let's listen to that. Yeah.
Meadows Field Information Whiskey. 200 Zulu weather.
Yeah, whiskey, I've set my own weather, so that's not that interesting. Whiskey. I'll write that down. Whiskey. Good. That's set. We're still flying that radial. All the frequencies are set. Schefter. Yeah, missed approach we could brief. I mean, there's much time with the 172 going 90 knots on an approach like this. Yeah. Parking, perhaps. Well, we're going to park on the right side. Usually I'm familiar already with Bakersfield, so that helps. Engine is still good. We're still nicely leaned. A little bit more, enriching that mixture just a tiny bit. Yeah, and my next cue is when this lateral needle gets in, and I guess that before that I will get a call up by SoCal saying switch over to tower or something like that. I have no idea. We're not going to do that procedure turn as instructed, and we just go in. Well, what we do need to know is the call outs for the ILS. Yeah, so 700 feet AGL, MSL. That's our decision height for our ILS. Yeah, so it's good practice to...
44 Trip Alpha Van Nuys Tower, enter right base, correction, enter right downwind, runway 16 right, report midfield.
It's good practice to call out how many feet you are away from that decision altitude once you get there. So let's say the last 500 or 500 feet or so. So you know that the time comes when you need to make a very clear, rapid decision. While you can still look out and see if you can find any visual of the runway, of the airport.
Air 5 Alpha Whiskey, you still here?
Fully lit up. Yeah. Yeah, so that's a bit of a surprise, and I should have known if I just look at the chart how many nautical miles we actually need to cover to make the approach, that it would actually be quite basic. I mean, obviously there are much more complex IFR procedures where we need to do a lot more things at the same time. I could have also referenced that Liebeck fix here at the bottom using that cross-reference.
700 Sierra Jolly Tower, runway 20 left, cleared for
But
correction,
that would
runway
also
20 left,
really
taxi, local
significantly
takeoff.
increase my workload. Alright, see the runway there to the left, which is a little bit of a cheat, I know. But that means that we're approaching the localizer capture. Also approaching that 4,500. And the task is to get down to 2,500 for that last chunk.
PHIM, contact Bakersfield Tower 118.1, and register is terminated.
Over the tower, Papa Delta Mike. There comes the localizer. Bakersfield Tower, Sky Papa Delta Mike is on the ILS approach 30 right.
Papa Delta Mike, Bakersfield Tower, runway 30 right, clear land, wind 3003.
Cleared land 30 right, Papa Delta Mike. And there comes the needle.
Nice tower, Baron 424 Charlie Papa, midfield, right downwind for runway 16 right.
424 Charlie Papa, Van Nuys Tower, runway 16 right, clear land.
I'm not going to set the
right,
heading bug to 300 because I now have a little bit more of a precise readout. The glide slope is still above me. Okay, now let's. I mean, we could obviously look outside. Let's not do that. Boom. All right. I'm gonna go down to 2,500 as published. We could still capture it though. Let's see if we can still do this, guys. I should also get what's the speed that I should actually catch. Also double check my compass. That's good. Okay, I'm off a bit. Come on, keep left of 300, Tim. You can do this. Now the glide slope goes down at a rate of about 450 feet per minute if it's a default 3-degree angle glide slope. So you can see now, because I'm descending much more rapidly to 2,500, that the vertical glide slope is now moving away from me. At the same time though, because we're going left from 300, that lateral needle should now get slowly in. And our decision height was 700 feet MSL. So this is still going good. Speed is going good. And the mantra by King Skulls is small adjustments first rather than big adjustments later. Which sounds a little bit cheesy, but yeah, I get the idea. Oh, come on. Man, I feel like an astronaut, even though it's a basic ILS. Like a re-entry burn, like now there's all kinds of flames outside of the Skyhawk. I feel like Gravity. Being in the Gravity movie. Okay, so apparently my 300 on my heading indicator is... I didn't set any winds, I think. 500 feet to go. Landing burn initiated, exactly.
Van Nuys Tower, Baron 424 Charlie Papa is clear of 16 right at Kilo.
4 Charlie Papa, Roger, taxi parking via Alpha Pass so far for the Cat 10.
Taxi via Alpha. Actually, can I just do a taxi back? I'm going to go ahead and do the next transition.
2,500, 200 feet.
4 Charlie Papa, Roger, runway 16 right, taxi via Alpha
100
feet. Maintenance frequency.
Alpha Charlie to 16 right, 424 Charlie Papa.
2,500. Alright, there goes the speed. I would say that I now should set actually my first notch of flaps. Good. I'm also a bit confused because the fact that we are zoomed in. It's a bit weird, actually. There comes the glide slope. A bit more power. Alright guys, let's see if I can still do this. There comes the glide slope. A bit more nose up. Well, I need to retrim it anyways. There we go. And nose down. 450 is our reference. So let's see what our speed is doing. Again, knowing RPMs is very, very handy here. Okay, this looks good, feels good. A bit to the right, Tim. 450, looks good. Rather like to be above the glide slope. Come on, look at your attitude indicator. Scanning now. We're going slow for... Let's get 20 degrees of flaps. Why not? 2,000 feet. Yeah, there we go. Right. Good. Yes. Guys, I need all your wishes. We need to survive this. Watch that speed, Tim. We need to survive this. Going pretty okay.
John Wayne Tower, Baron November 79 Juliet.
700 feet is our decision height.
Departure.
Let's see if we can make that.
I sure didn't contact departure.
I'm really focused now.
Over to departure, 79 Juliet.
Speed is okay-ish. I think we should be at 90 knots if I remember King's School, but...
One check, Bravo, contact Los Angeles 124.
Don't know quite why. I guess margin in terms of winds and stuff.
Orange 700 here, Zoka departure,
No,
contact, flighting.
it's timing.
320.
I should have also timed my final, my arrival at the final approach fix. So in case I lost my, because I'm only looking at my instruments right now in case my ILS would be lost if it just would break down.
Eclipse 851 Tango Bravo Los Angeles Center, Sim Posture, maintain 1.
And I don't have any other reference of where I am.
Altimeter 3012.
And that's why I should have set my timer. But that's something for more advanced stuff later. Right, there goes the lateral. Alright, 1,000 feet to go. And again, the power is, again, small adjustments, but also a stable setting. Stabilized for the approach. That counts also for VFR flying, obviously. But I'm not doing that much. Getting a little bit underneath that glide slope that I don't like. Subtle. So look how tiny that is. I'm just at 400 feet per minute. And that already does something with that needle. A bit more to the right. .500 feet to go. Come on, yeah, that's because I was tinkering with my power. Good. Don't exaggerate. Rather be on top of the glide slope than underneath. Alright, gonna tuck my hand on my mouse so I can... Yeah, and that distracts me. So I can zoom out as soon as we're hitting.
Right, Tango, pop head.
Yes. Down, Tim, down. Come on. Catch it. Catch it. Catch it.
Fly from the last waypoint to the airport, and then when you get to the airport, you hold.
800, 100 feet to go. 100 feet to go.
Yeah, it's in there some. Just if you're familiar with the clearance limit, the clearance limit is where you stop.
Oh my gosh!
So your route
Oh
always
my
has
gosh!
to connect from
Look
your
at that!
departure to your clearance limit. Clearance limit doesn't have to be an airport. Your
Oh, it was
entire route has to be connected.
698.
There can't be any
It was not
discontinuities.
798. That's my blame.
There are discontinuities, and you have to be on like a radar vector or something, or ATCs.
Didn't put on my full
so
flaps.
it has to be a complete route from departure to
ILS
the
landing,
clearance
approach,
limit, and then
first
at the clearance
one.
limit,
There
that's
we
when
go.
would hold.
Flaps up. I see the exit there. That was exciting.
That's affirmative. Most of the time, there's a
was exciting,
VOR
guys.
radial or something. You
take
can
a look
take,
at
for
the
example,
Jetsoon.
Seal Beach, direct John Wayne Airport or something like that. There's just a radial that'll take you straight to it. But the some of those cases you're expected to be able to dead reckon for lost counts purposes.
Getting my butt behind the threshold line.
So it gets a little gray.
There we go.
There's
Thanks, guys.
different opinions on it. But the technical definition is yes, you're expected to be
landing
able to do
lights
it.
off, strobe lights off, taxi lights on. Let's lean for ground. Something like this. Very good.
Or 8 Tango Papa, if you I think I can find it for you quickly. Hold on. Bernardo Julius, you're correct, Popper.
Where are we?
Bernardo Julius, you're cleared, Popper.
Hotel. Man. Guys, that went pretty well. But I have to say, because you're zoomed in, I don't know what that does, because it's just rational information coming from the instruments,
nice
but
tower,
it's a
Baron
bit
424
weird.
Charlie Papa is at 16 right, ready for departure, or westbound departure to join the coastal route.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one, Techno. Yeah. Now that you say that, I was very close to the runway. My altimeter setting was still based on SoCal, not on the airport. And that's dangerous. That's a good one. That's a major error. Yeah, so I listened to the ATIS. It was Oscar, no, it was Whiskey. And I said, I'm not going to listen to the full readout because I just have custom weather, which is okay, but I was flying with the altimeter setting of SoCal. And having a current altimeter setting is very important for an instrument approach. As you can see, I was very low already to the
424 chop up.
I think I've flown beyond the decision
runway
height.
16 right, clear for takeoff, Rexham departure.
Man.
16 right, clear for takeoff, then we'll do a right crosswind departure.
Let's get to parking.
Papa.
Bakersfield Tower, Scarpa Hotel Tingray Mike is vacated 30 right at hotel, taxi to parking.
PHTAF, taxi parking via Alpha, have a good day.
Via Alpha to parking, thanks for the help, Hotel Tingray Mike. Ha! There we go.
Alright, Tango Pop, I'm looking it up here. I just referred to Sums's opinion. And again, it's such a gray area there. He says that if you don't have the capabilities to do it, then you can hold at the last fix before the airport, before the clearance limit. So we're going to
Flying at night is so cool.
Here in just a second.
Especially in X-Plane. Where are we going to park? Taxiing. I think there's a flight school. I think Digital and me.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of this stuff was written for that era. And so some of the rules are outdated.
A bit further.
And just never changed because they're, things have gotten safer and safer.
Man, that was a nice approach. But I think I flew to about 100 feet. We're going to review the flight soon. 100 feet AGL, something like that, which should have been 200. That was a major mistake. Altimeter setting. Thanks, Techno, for noticing. ATIS. ATIS. Is this good? I think it isn't. Can I go this direction? Yeah, that's also an entirely...
Or 700 Sierra, SoCal approach LA altimeter 3007.
Oh, I'm actually not on the taxiway anymore. I cannot really... My gosh. With such a nice approach, I'm actually now going through the dirt. I don't recognize it as being dirt. And that's also why planning your arrival at the airport and knowing the airport. I mean, I'm familiar with Bakersfield, but apparently not that familiar, which is not good. There we go. Let's park here. Let's see how low I actually went. There we go. Okay. That's that. Let's reset our... No, first transponder to off. Then 1200 for the next time. Avionics off. And... there we go. And switch off, off, off. Lights, beacon light on. And there we go, releasing our seatbelts. First instrument approach. That was freaking cool. I did it, man. Are you a real pilot? No, I'm not. I'm a serious flight sim pilot. Still great flying here in Time 9. See you guys. Bye digital, and good luck with that traineeship. Okay, let's review the flight. Door closed for animation's sake. Plugins, Pilot Edge, disconnect. Recorder. That's good. Shift. So let's just do C and Control P. There we go. Yeah. So. Yeah, this was actually pretty okay. If you look at the disc, you can see my wiggling around that needle, not paying attention. That was the cause. It's not task saturation at all, but just not completing tasks. So that's not good. Yeah, so there we went. How low did we go? Yeah, we could just swap into the cockpit, that's fine as well. Looking for data output that we can see how high we actually are. But I do need it because my altimeter was not set. Wait a minute. There should be altitudes. All planes altitude? No, just my plane altitude. As long as you... There you go. Yes. Shift 9. Where's my data output? What? Show in cockpit. Altitude. This should work, guys, shouldn't it? Why are no data things pop up? Okay. Apparently that's a bit too difficult. So yeah, here I was grabbing my mouse, so I was a bit off. Oh no, here it was. Yeah, so here you can see I'm venturing off. And again, because we're that close to the runway, look how far we're actually off of the runway. This is already 200 feet or so. And I'm still descending because I didn't set my altimeter. Can I reset it? No. I set my own weather. I think it's 299er. Yeah. 299.2. So I'm still flying. I'm still flying. I think if I didn't mistaken 698 for 798, because now I watched at the runway, I would have flown onto the runway. Because the runway, currently with my current altimeter setting, 698 was actually the elevation of the airport. Alright. I'm going to look at that landing several times. So, that's interesting. Again, yeah, you can see me wobbling away here. But overall, if you look at the glide slope, it's pretty okay. Don't you think? Yeah. And it's also striking to see, also important to see, how yeah, the ILS needle becomes so much more sensitive in a way that a small needle deflection, well, wasn't really that small, to be honest. It happened quite quickly. It's quite significant. I mean, for someone who is standing on the runway, or someone who's taxiing on the taxiway, it seems like someone is actually mistaking the runway for the taxiway almost. So yeah, this was a little bit off. So that didn't make it a perfect. My previous attempts, just for fun's sakes, was a bit better. But overall, yeah, very, very good. And I think already at this time here, I would have already been at 200 feet AGL, and I would have looked outside and see the lights here. All right, let's go back a bit. I'm not interested in this stuff anymore. Ooh, that's also interesting. So you can actually see how we are. Nice. I didn't know that X-Plane would actually do that when you set your ILS. So we're in the cube. What's this range? Is that one deflection? I guess so. So in that sense, no, I was farther away from one deflection at this moment, I think. Let's have a look. So there we went. This is a nice evaluation thing. Yeah, so this was good. And close. I was close. I'm already on the mark. Small corrections, and here I was grabbing for my mouse. But I was still within that range. So, not too bad. Very, very proud. There we came in with our 172. It's hard to see when we touch down, actually. And I wasn't full flaps. That's also something. So, yeah. Again, I'm so fixated on flying the ILS that you forget about other stuff that you need to check. Also oil temperatures, all kinds of other stuff. Obviously, you're primarily focused on flying the ILS, but that's interesting. Awesome! I just like to... I shouldn't have done that, I guess. Ah, there we go. Yeah. Let me see. Can I quit that? Yes, I can. Oh, righty then. Guys, first ILS approach. That was really, really cool. I really enjoyed myself. One surprise, how much time you actually have as a 172 on an instrument approach. At least this one. That's good. And second lesson, also because of that time that you have, never get comfy. There's always something to do. It was because of that trigger that I thought, oh my gosh, the ATIS, before we switched the tower. And I need to grab the current weather information. Third, also do something with the ATIS information. Set your altimeter setting, which is obviously so vital to getting your decision altitude right. Obviously. So that's really, really important. Fourth, which relates back to my departure, thanks to Keith, who messed with my engine during the takeoff roll. And so what I should do, and that's a good point, even though the run-up tests already for higher RPMs, it doesn't check off the fact that the engine does well on their high RPMs, because we only go to 1800. Thanks for the follow, RAF Pilot, thanks. Thank you guys. This may contra blah. Thanks for the follow, appreciate it. Thank you guys. Welcome, happy Sunday. Yeah, so because of the run-up goes to 1800 but not to 25, not to full RPM, I should not only check the engine gauges while I'm in my takeoff roll, like everything is in the green and airspeed is alive at 40, 50, 60 and then take off, but I should also look at my max RPM. If I'm understanding Keith correctly, he already set that failure once we did our takeoff roll, so I should have already noticed that my power was not at full. I was stuck at around 2000 or so. And then I could have rejected my takeoff roll already and put on the brakes. Imagine that this was actually a lead up to a full out engine failure in a departure is the worst thing that can ever happen, especially at that critical altitude range where we cannot turn around anymore to the airfield. You're done. You need to crash land somewhere. So that's a good one. Never thought about that. Checking your full RPM while you're stationary RPM, but not as part of the power check, I think, but because during the takeoff roll, see whether you actually hit full RPM. That's a really, really important one. And also what I should also incorporate that I already know is while I'm taking off, going through the different rejected takeoff altitudes so I know what to do as soon as I get an engine out. I bet that Keith will do that as well. Just pull the plug while I'm at 200 feet AGL just after takeoff. So I need to call out altitudes. So when I'm above 300 feet or something, I cannot land on the runway anymore if I got an engine out. So between 300 feet AGL and 1,000 feet AGL, that's the altitude, the critical altitude where I cannot return to the airfield. So I need to look over the cowling to see any potential suitable crash site to ditch my airplane in case we got an engine out. Just as a regular kind of way to do that. Oh, there's my car picking me up, I guess. No, it's fuel. Let me see. So yeah, those are the four lessons, I guess. In terms of Gorman VOR, what did we do? How did we fix that actually? I don't know how we fixed that. Should review that video. I think we were just close enough to Gorman to pick it up. Also with the ILS, there's also a lesson. The ILS is quite, it's not a high range kind of reception, right? The ILS is quite terminal, quite close to the airport, obviously. So it makes sense that you don't get a readout from the ILS very far out. And except for that, everything was really, really basic. Also the instrument approach procedure, also the ADC, and very good guidance on that VOR. I did pretty well. Thanks, Anne. Alright guys, so once more, thank you for your support, thank you for attending, thank you for encouraging me, cheering me on in this adventure of coming as close to a real-world IFR rating and flight sim as I can on Pilot Edge with the 172 and the Reality Extension Pack by Simcoders. Again, really appreciate your support and many follows. As always, happy flights and blue skies. Bye. Palm Springs Tower, Starlink, Hotel Tango, minus 10 miles north of the airport at 3000 with information X-ray for full stop, landing 13 left, that's it.
Pablo Delta Tango, Indy Link, Palm Springs Tower, squawk 6250.
6250.
Pablo Delta Tango, Indy Link, Palm Springs altimeter is 2985, radar contact about 10 miles west of the Palm Springs VOR. Presently landing runway 31, you're requesting straight in for 13.
If that's available, yes please.
Correction, Pablo Delta Tango, Indy Link, make straight in runway 13 left and clear to land. Wind is 0905.
Clear to land, runway 3 left, Pablo Delta Tango, Indy Link, thanks.
Palm Springs clearance plus 4658 is type B6 land call frequent clearance to Vegas S file.
Palm 4658, Palm Springs clearance. Good afternoon, unable to give you S file, I'll be forward sailing. Pilots 4658 is cleared to Las Vegas Airport. VFI Cathedral 1, departure procedure to Palm Springs. Victor 370 to 29 Palms. Victor 538. Cresto. Put in a Cresto 3 arrival. Maintain 7000. Expect flight level 2405 minutes after departure. Departure frequency 126.7. Squawk 6316.
Is cleared to Vegas via Cathedral 1, Palm Springs, Victor 37029, Palms, Victor 538, Cresto 3, initially climb 7000, expected for 0 extra 5, departure 167, squawk 6316 plus 465.
Plus 4658, readback is correct. Tango to Mike, taxi to ramp via Echo remaining frequency.
Taxiing to the ramp via Echo, remaining on this frequency, Pablo Delta Tango, Indy Link.
Ontario Tower, Cessna 237 Charlie Alpha, approximately 4 miles to the west, inbound to that.
Cover 237 Charlie Alpha, roger, inner left traffic. Left downwind runway 26 left, report base.
And left downwind for 26 left and report your base, 237 Charlie Alpha.
Charlie
Number 237 Charlie Alpha, runway 26 left, clear to land.
26 left, clear to land, 7 Charlie Alpha 3.
Palm Springs ground plus 4658 East trend, clear to weather, coming for taxi.
Pilots 4658.